Take a deep breath in, let it out. Hi, y'all. Thank you so much for spending a couple of minutes in this I Need a Minute. The Lord knows I need a minute. And so I hope that all of your time spent this week has been fruitful, has been less stressful. And that hopefully like this little minute can offer some space to reflect. So at work, what we're doing now is like we're on top of everything when it comes to unconscious bias, right? So this whole workplace thing of like, what are some things that we think about when it comes to the other, like othering people? So when it's, when we come into that portion of the training where people say, oh, what are some stories and that you've experienced some unconscious bias? This whole thing of privilege comes to play, right? And privilege is something that's really important to know that you are unaware sometimes of it and how you can use that privilege to give voice to those with oppressed identities. And so the reason why I mentioned this is because this ties into Greatest Commandment Theology. And from what I understand about it, it's about what are your privileges and understanding it and remaining with that and see how is it that you can love those that may be experiencing social injustice. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read something. It's from Breaking All the Rules. And it says, the greatest commandment challenges all of us to first acknowledge our privilege and refuse to rest in it at the expense of others who do not share our privilege. And it goes on to talk about Q+ people and two mature consenting adults with same gender attraction choosing to be in a committed relationship with each other does not in any way hinder my ability to procreate with my wife. So fam, with this I need a minute moment, I just want to lift up any kind of privileges that we may not be aware of and how we can sit with the other, right? And not even have a division with the other, including those that we feel we may be divided with, to include them in the conversation, to include them in that circle. And understanding that we have people that say, oh, what does the Bible say about that? In Christian's book, it does say that the Greatest Commandment Theology kind of challenges that. And instead of saying, what does the Bible say about it? It's, well, how does Greatest Commandment Theology appear here? How can I, in my privilege as a man, as identified male, how can I love those that don't share my privilege? And how can I be an ally to those who don't share the privilege that I have? Or how can I speak up for the rights of others? It's all about loving others as yourself. And one of the things that I've learned and been blessed about is understanding that whole loving yourself, you don't have to be fully at the end of the process of loving each and every part of yourself before you can actually love someone else. They can happen at the same time. I found that I can love myself. I can start to love myself. And at the same time, learn how to love the other as I love myself. And maybe loving myself, the process of that seems like funky and uncomfortable at sometimes. Well, I can then understand that my neighbor is probably going through the same thing. They're probably going through a funky, stank, uncomfortable moment through that process of deconstructing and constructing all those things that others have put on them. So in that way, I can relate to my neighbor in loving ourselves and each other. So I don't gotta be perfect. I don't funky stank. Yeah, I don't gotta be perfect. I don't have to be uh, done with loving every part of me and looking through. I can do that process as well as love the other. So when Christian writes, unpacking the very few passages in the Bible that seem to address things is not this the purpose of his book. But when people say, what does the Bible say to that? It's saying, what does my doctrine say to it? What does the rule keeping theology say about that? And that's just completely, totally the opposite of greatest commandment theology. So let's take a moment, if you can. I may not have the smooth Bob Ross KSMR type of thing voice as Callie does, but if you can join me in taking a moment to reflect on our inner privileges and what our own identities that are intersecting identities that are privileged and oppressed identities, and just call into the presence of a divine spirit that offers that compassion, that offers the ability for us to be creative and co-create in our process of loving ourselves, loving our neighbor at the same time. So get into whatever meditative position it's comfortable with you, and I will close my eyes, breathe in, breathe out. And as we imagine this ball of light just hovering above us, just hovering right above our heads, as it opens and grows ever so slightly, think about what that warm light represents to you. Is it a light of love? Is it a light of affirmation, of justice? And as that ball of light continues to grow and grow, it gets to a point where it cascades down your body from the top of your head all the way down. And this warm light engulfs you and embraces you. And it brings us to consciousness and awareness how we can use any of our privilege to help those who may not have a voice. And I would ask that you picture that ball of light floating back up your body, up your spine, to the top of your head. And as it floats away to return to the source of love and compassion, we still remain with the source of light and love that it left behind. Deep breath in and out. Friends and family, I thank you for this time to just set us some time to take a breather, understanding that let's look at to see what greatest commandment theology about loving our neighbor can do for, that's right, Christian, can do for us in order to love those, even those that may not have the best intentions for us. Learning to love those who are on this journey the same way that we are. And understanding that you don't have to be perfect, that you don't have to figure everything out, and you don't have to fully be done embracing your love for yourself before you can move and love others and do that together. And you're not alone. Reach out to faith community, to any circle that you have in order to practice this. what does Greatest Commandment Theology, how does it play in this situation? And hopefully be done with the rule-keeping doctrine theology that we're all familiar with. So with that, thank you, much love, and peace, and enjoy the weather if it's great out there. Bye, y'all.